Hey folks, I'm Mark, and welcome to my workshop. Everything here starts with a question. Today, I'm going to be focused on Dr. Theo's face. Okay, I get that like 95% of him is a face, but go with me on this. I'm going to ask two questions, and we're going to do two different things today. The first one is, how do I cut acrylic and prevent it from cracking or breaking outright? As I discovered in the last video, that's not as straightforward as I thought, even on the scroll saw.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me!
The second question is, how do I give the face some more depth? When I'm looking at the show and I'm watching Dr. Theo on the show, it looks like the face actually goes deeper than what, the 2 inches or so that his body allows for. So how do you do that and give that illusion? And that's where we're going to start today. Alright, I needed to make the cuts from the very first panel on Dr. Theo's face. So I studied this image from the internets, and I transferred onto paper, those cuts or those lines onto just a piece of paper. Then I just put the layer of acrylic down on the paper and traced the lines with a whiteboard marker. And so I end up with that, which looks a little better when you can actually see it. Haha. So these are the lines that I have to cut out. I'm going to do a couple of things this time around. A couple of things different this time around. First, I'm going to put packing tape on all of the lines. And from what I've read about cutting acrylic, that helps prevent cracking. It also acts as kind of a lubricant for the saw blade. So that's one. Next, I'm going to drill out the corners of all of the cuts. And what I'm hoping that will do, what I expect it to do, is that will make it easier to turn the piece when it's on the saw. So I won't be fighting against the material as I'm trying to make that a 90-degree or even more drastic turn. I'll be able to cut into that hole, turn it exactly where I want to go, and keep going. Again, to prevent the danger of cracking the material. Now before I try it on this good one, I'm going to try it a couple of experiments on some of the scrap acrylic that I have left over, just to see how these are going to work. So let's take a look at how we did. So there's the piece. I made two cuts that are similar. They're not quite exact, but they're similar to what the real side is going to have to, the real panel is going to have. And so I've, between the taping and drilling out the corners, this turned out just beautiful. I went very slow on the saw, and it didn't have any problems. Aside from, I guess, one, and this is a lesson I think I've finally learned, when I drew out the lines, I did it in black whiteboard marker. Well, my saw has a black cut centerpiece that, you can pop that out to clean it, but black on black is really hard to see, and so I was having a hard time actually figuring out where the lines were. And so one of these ends up being, I like really got off the line. So I think I'm going to switch to a different color Sharpie or marker. But other than that, like I said, this turned out beautiful. The other thing I was concerned about, and the real panel has the same issue, is how close these two cuts get to each other. I was really worried about this here splitting and, like this whole section just breaking off because the two cuts got so close to each other. And that didn't happen. Like I said, between the the drill holes and just taping this seemed to really work well. Now I will have a lot of cleanup to do. There's a lot of ragged edges here in the various corners and whatnot. But I can sand those down or file them down, and that should do the trick. So I think we got a winner. So now it's on to the real piece. First things first, I had to wipe off all the black, and then I went over the lines again using the same technique as before, this time with red. That was the most obvious or brilliant color I had available, so I was just gonna, hopefully that would allow it to stand out. Also, I had to be careful, since this is whiteboard marker, I had to be careful about sliding over what I had already drawn and wiping it clean. Once I got the lines down, I put packing tape, covered all of them with packing tape, just as before. This actually solved the previous problem, which was the whiteboard markers are not going to wipe away anymore after this. Trimmed off the excess around the edges, and then I mounted it to the workbench and drilled out all the corners. And my goal was to get the inside of the corner, inside of the cut, drilled out, so that I wouldn't be cutting into what was going to remain. Once I went through with all that, had to do a little bit of deburring and whatnot around the edges, but otherwise it was very straightforward, and went as ideally as I had hoped. Well, here it is, all cut out, all 4 pieces. Went very smoothly. Combination of the red ink on the scroll saw made it very easy to see where those lines were. The holes drilled in the corners made it very easy to turn, and the packing tape kept it from shattering or cracking as I was making those cuts. So all in all, this turned out very well. I'm very happy with this. I still have to do a lot of cleanup on the edges. Some of the corners are not quite as straight as I want them, but overall the cuts are done. All right. So in the first video, I used a piece of white signboard to provide the background, but this, as I'm looking at this more, this really looks flat, like too flat. It's not enough depth. So what I'm going to try is I found a mirror that will just fit in here. I'm going to try replacing the white signboard with the mirror and see if that gives it a little bit more depth. So I'm going to pop this out. And put this in, but I'm going to first put in, I have a couple of extra spacers that I printed up. I'm just going to put those in just for placeholder, really. And then I'm going to put this back in just to keep everything in place for the time being. Now that's better. It certainly gives the reflection that I was hoping to get out of the back. I think what I might end up having to do is print off another thicker spacer to go between the layer with the shapes and the mirror itself, just to provide that, give it a little bit of depth, and then you get this the separation there to make it look like his face is deeper than it really is. But that's not too bad. Well, thank you for joining me. In the next video, I'll be tackling Dr. Theo's feet and his cheeks. See you next time.